Good evening, everybody. My name is E.R. Anderson. I'm the Executive Director of Charis Circle. Charis Circle is a nonprofit programming arm of Charis Books, and Charis Books is the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. Tonight's event is co-sponsored by The Rumpus, and we are thrilled to have an incredible lineup for you tonight. I'm very sorry we had a little tech problem. So Courtney Lamar Charleston, who is the Rumpus's poetry editor, we couldn't get him on stage to do part of this intro. I really wanted him to be here. So I'm just going to say thank you from The Rumpus and to The Rumpus. If you don't know the work of The Rumpus, they are doing incredible things for our broader literary community. So check them out. Always grateful for what they are doing for all of us, increasing, words in many, many communities. So thank you to The Rumpus. Thank you to Courtney. Appreciate you. And I'm sorry we're having some tech problems. I want to let folks know wherever you're watching from, you can ask a question via this Ask a Question button at the bottom center of the screen. Feel free to put some questions in there. And at the end, we're going to incorporate a few of the questions, so we're going to get to as many as we can. We got some questions planned. We also, of course, have a very full program. So tonight, we're here to celebrate Khalisa Rae with an incredible lineup in honor of her brand new book, hot off the presses, Ghost in a Black Girl's Throat. It's a beautiful book. It's an incredible book. And we're really, really, really thrilled to be kicking it off. So we want to welcome tonight our MC. Dasan is an award-winning poet and performance artist, public speaker, community organizer, educator, scholar, and MC born and raised in Raleigh, North Carolina. He's an alumni of the Nasir Jones Fellow at Harvard Hip Hop Archive and Research Institute, a resident artist at the St. Joseph's Historic Foundation, Haiti Heritage Center, a visiting lecturer at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. He has performed across the country, appeared on national radio and TV, and been featured in various periodicals and released numerous recordings. Dasan is the author of 4 poetry collections that include The Innovator, Freedom Papers, Everything Worth Fighting For, An Exploration of Being Black in America, and Shackled Freedom, Black Living in the Modern American South. He works with organizations and institutions to develop effective art strategies to enhance their work in the community. Dasan is also currently managing a grant-funded initiative as the Rothwell Mellon Program Director for Creative Futures with Carolina Performing Arts. He swings a mean pen and represents the South. So welcome, Dasan. We're very glad to have you here.
Yes. I'm excited to be here. This is a wonderful one of occasion. So thank you so much. And I hope that everyone is ready for this. Ghost in a Black Girl's Throat. This is the release. And this lineup of poets is phenomenal. So everyone sit tight. Hope you're comfortable. Your ears, your minds, and your hearts are open. And we are going to present some of the most powerful and amazing voices that you are going to hear. And it's going to culminate with us celebrating the release of this book with Khalisa Rae and hearing from her as well. So I'm just here to keep the night moving along. And I'm going to do my job by bringing up our first reader tonight. Our first reader is Mahogany Browne. Mahogany Browne is a writer, organizer, and educator, executive director of Bowery Poetry Club, and artistic director of Urban Word NYC, and poetry coordinator at St. Francis College. Browne has received fellowships from Agnes Gunn, Air Serimbe, Calvé Canham, Poet House, Mellon Research, and Rauschenberg. She is the author of most recent works, Chlorine Sky, get it, Woke, A Young Poet's Call to Justice, get it, Woke Baby, and Black Girl Magic. She lives in Brooklyn, New York. I have to also say this, because I don't get many opportunities to say this, that I like to give people roses while they can. And when I think about the work that I do, there are some specific inspirations for how I move, the way that I hold space, and for what happens and how I build my community. And if there is a model and an example and an inspiration for this, then it is this person right here that I call sister and family. And so without further ado, I am going to get out the way. But first I had to just say that out loud, because we got to learn to say those things and recognize the folks who help to make things better and move and show us the way. Thank you, Mahogany, for being here. And the moment is yours.
Thank you, Dasan. I really typed in there one of the illest because Dasan is not only has he been here. Wow, if I've been doing this for 15 years, I think I met you in my second year. Um, and it never failed. His spirit never fails, his energy never fails, and he brought me to Khalisa Rae, who penned one of the mightiest books of this year, of this generation, Ghosts in a Black Girl's Throat. We are so very, very lucky to be able to not only have the text, but the legend and the blueprint to guide us to a kind of freedom. So thank you, Khalisa, for writing this. Thank you, Charis, for making this space possible. Thank you, Dasan, for always being. And Khalisa, happy book birthday, love. I was saying behind the scenes in the backstage, I don't answer DMs often, but just not because I think I'm better, but because like I'm old, y'all. I don't even know what a DM is. But for Khalisa, I will answer anything. Like she could put up the bat signal and sis is ready. All right. So that said, I'm going to read a new piece, and then I will close with a piece that feels very much about the spirit, the energy, and the good vibrations that she promises with her sistering, her sistership, and her leadership. So first, how I even got here. I always shout out Sister Sonia Sanchez. I was able to read with Sister Toy Derricott. I always think of June Jordan, Audre Lorde, Maya Angelou. If we're thinking of the women that allowed us literary artists us to exist as activists and organizers, I have to call their names in the room. So thank you, Gwendolyn Brooks. Thank you, Sister Sonia Sanchez. Thank you, Nikki Giovanni. Thank you, Khalisa Rae. Thank you, Maya Angelou. Thank you, Maya Marshall. Thank you, Araceli Scramai. Thank you, Patricia Smith. This poem, the first piece, it's a three-part poem, and the first is a cento of all of my favorite lines from Sister Sonia. The second is my thesis statement, because, poets, we always got a thesis, child. And the third is the poem that exists because they allowed me to be. Forgive me if I laugh. You are so sure of love. You are so young, and I am too old to learn. Can you tell the morning stars, the air so sweet, river dark with sound, speech, and breath? Can you tell the stars and the ocean, she is a holy one, leaving trail of witnesses smiling. Amen. A woman. Our braided spaces, glass gone mad, yellow razor thin light, shiny sugar and pure woman, conceal a symphonic shudder, 1,000 sermons conjugate pain. Wild stars, southern eyes bloom in the night. We taste the blue midnight, stars between my teeth. Black magic is you, caught in my voice. It is a wild sea. Love shifts the air and we blossom black. Picture a woman, her spine, her rotating the earth, her leaning into our birth cloud eyes, jumping rivers, inhaling moons. Imagine her free too. I ain't known I was worth the snarl and spit. This name, this black girl gone, black woman arrival. I ain't never known I was worth fighting for until I read a Sonia Sanchez poem. 3. We roll up sleeves and bend from the knees. We sing beneath our breath, it's gonna be heavy. We swing big despite the justice system of letdown, and we still show up on time. We arms open. We hands open. We hearts open. And we love the way we fight until empty, until sun replenishes, until laughter fills the well. We return to the front line. We hammer. We hatchet. We ready to love a life. We ready to rock a stone cold gaze into dust. The black girl you watched harassed is someone's daughter. The black woman you watched berated is someone's daughter. There is no redemption in swinging out of your weight class. There is no glory in the demise of our black women. We be the daughters. We be the bridge makers. We be the pot servers. We be the cleanup crew. We be the aunties. We be the writers. We be the spell weavers. We be the holiest of the holy. We pray for you. We double-edged women, we gather like a fist of freedom papers. We coal of storm. We coal of storm and glory. We a country surrounded by ghosts. We pray for ourselves. We watch our sisters pray for we blessed in this knowing. We black palms open and up. We black spirit and divine. We ain't never been still bars. We ain't never been glass ceiling. We ain't never shuck. Nah, we saunter. We saunter. We saunter the testimony. We clean. We clean. We clean the spirit we manifest. We manifest. And we ain't leaving till we choose. We be the daughters. We be the daughters. And we got root work to do. They say you ain't supposed to be here, black girl. You ain't supposed to wear red lipstick. You ain't supposed to wear high heels. You ain't supposed to smile in public. You ain't supposed to smile nowhere, black girl. You ain't supposed to be no more than a girlfriend. You ain't supposed to get married. You ain't supposed to want no dream that big. You ain't supposed to dream at all. You ain't supposed to do nothing but carry babies and carry felons and carry weaves and carry silence and carry families and carry confusion and carry a nation, but never an opinion. Because you ain't supposed to have nothing to say, black girl, not unless it's a joke. Because you ain't supposed to love yourself, black girl. You ain't supposed to find nothing worth saving in all that brown. You ain't supposed to know that Tina, Beyonce, Cecily, Shonda, rhymes, shine, 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 black girl. You ain't supposed to love your mind. You ain't supposed to love. You ain't supposed to be loved up on. You only supposed to pose voodoo child, vixen style. You're supposed to pop out babies and hide the stretch marks. You're supposed to be still. So still they think you statue. So still they think you chalked outline. So still they keep thinking you stone. Until you look more Medusa than Viola Davis. Until you sound more Shanae than Kerry Washington. Until you're more side-eye than Michelle Obama on a Tuesday, but you tell them you are more than a hot comb in a washing set. You are Kunta Kinte's kin. You are a black girl worth remembering, and you are a threat. Knowing yourself, you are a threat. Loving yourself, you are a threat. Loving your kin, you are a threat. Loving your children, you black girl magic, you black girl fly, you black girl brilliant, you black girl wonder, you black girl shine, you black girl bloom, you black girl, and you turning into a beautiful black woman right before our eyes. Thank you so much. Happy book birthday. I can't wait to hold that book in my hands. Don't buy one, buy two, huh? How about that?
Wow. Wow. That, y'all, was Mahogany Browne. All right. And we are here. This celebration has kicked off, and we are just getting started. All right. So, next up, our next reader, Jihyun Yun is a Korean-American poet from the San Francisco Bay Area, a Fulbright Research Fellow and National Poetry Series finalist. Her debut collection, Summer Always Hungry, won the 2019 Prairie Schooner's Prize and was published by the University of Nebraska Press. Her work has appeared in Best New Poets, Android, Poet News, Northwest, and elsewhere. I am excited to be able to hear this poet read. I went digging and hunting through, and that Burroughs Brooklyn Poetry Shop reading was where I landed, and I was just like, oh, this is good. So I'm going to sit back and enjoy, and I hope you will too. Please, please, please welcome Jihyun to the stage. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction. Wow, after seeing Mahogany read, my hands are shaking. I feel like I'm floating a little bit. So I'm so sorry if my voice is a little bit quivery. I'm just so excited to be here to celebrate Khalisa's book, Ghost in a Black Girl's Throat, which I read for the first time a couple months ago when it was still in copy edit phases with Red Hen. And I remember just how blown away I was. And I just kept going to my partner and showing him poems. And now to finally have the book and to be able to celebrate the book, I'm just so excited to continue shouting about it from the rooftops. So congratulations, Khalisa. I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly read my 2 poems because I can't wait to listen to all of the other readers. And of course, Khalisa reading from her debut collection. So this first poem is called Homonyms. I wanted to keep in the same thread of celebrating daughters and sisterhood. This poem begins with a definition for the Korean word teoda, which can mean either to burn or singe by fire, but also means to carry or to give a ride, to pick up. Homonyms. I burned you. You grew up burning, bundled on my back, petulant petal, jaundiced thing, plucked from my amniotic rib. I had you suck the milk of dandelions to take the yellow from your skin. Sliced antlers rendered to wretched tea to temper your bloodied coughing. I dislodge your limbs in hopes you'd grow to something lithe and desired, the suggestion of a girl. And you did, until your girlhood grew dangerous, as it does for all girls. I've been sorry ever since. You burned on the coattails of our immigration, singed your tongue on America until no tongue was rightfully yours. Until you came home, disgraced, having pissed yourself instead of asking to go to the restroom in English. But I wasn't ashamed. I burned you gently in my arms, burned you all the way home. Away from the laughter, burned you against my breast to safety. And daughter, you will not forget these aches you learned. If you have a daughter, you will burn her too. This poem is called Reversal, and it is a reverse recipe poem. Reversal. Rescind the palm dash of scallion, the final blessings of ground perilla seeds and sesame leaf. Unshred the crown daisy. Take the soup off the flame and kill the flame. Unsinge the bottom of the pot until your face reflects in its gunmetal glint. De-Korean the broth. Vacate its ginger and onion and garlic, its rice wine and red swelter. Restore the ground chili flakes to their unshorn forms and hang the bloodless red fruit back up in their perennials. Unwater the perennials, vines retreating to the crease of their seeds. Commit yourself to this unharvest, to the joy of unmaking. Let the soup unthicken, the starch pull back into the cells of their russets. Fish the russets out from the pork spine cages and lay them to rest back into the earth. Now, address the spines. Pick them out from the pot and lay them to grow raw across the cutting board's face. Watch it pull blood back into itself, replenish its own marrow. Love, you'll need your shoes for this. Leave the kitchen. Seek the sow and unslaughter her, but if you find the pig dismembered and cannot bear it, remember, just because you are a daughter doesn't mean you must mend. Instead, let her tend to herself, her unthatched belly calling for return of lost things. Bone, honeycomb maw, her clumsy animal heart until she speaks. Dear reader, I so want to survive this. Please lead me whole into another season so I may dare begin again. Thank you so much. Cheers, Khalisa. I'm so happy for you.
Oh, thank you, y'all. Man, you can see why I'm excited to just be able to be an MC for this moment, because it is going down. Oh my goodness. The language, the command, the craft, the beauty, the sincerity, the authenticity, the power, it's all here. Yes. We're going to keep this thing moving right along. I hope y'all are enjoying this, and I hope that you're also telling people that they need to be here. Be real judgery about the fact that they aren't, because they need to be a part of this moment right here. So send some messages out. Let them know. Our next reader is Maya Marshall, a writer and editor, co-founder of underbellymag.com, the journal on the practical magic of poetic revision. As an educator, Marshall has taught at Northwestern University and Loyola University in Chicago. She holds fellowships from McDowell, Vermont Studio Center, Callaloo, the Warding Hall, Communities of Writers, and Cave Canem. She is the author of Second Hand. Her writing appears in Best New Poets 2019, Muzzle, Rhino, Potomac Review, Blackbird, and elsewhere. Her first full-length collection of poems, All the Blood Involved in Love, is forthcoming from Haymarket Books. Y'all get ready. Maya, the only thing I want to say is I see you, tribe. The moment is yours.
Thank you so much, love. It's nice to see you. Good to see you all. Khalisa, I could not be more proud of you. This book has just blossomed over the last couple of years, and I'm honored to be in your birthing party. I'm proud of you, and I'm grateful to be in this room with Poetry Fam, including Miss Mahogany Browne and and our friend Itola Jones, and some folks from years and years ago, like Lindsay Marie, who I've been knowing since I was 15 years old. So I'm glad to be here. Also, my mom is in the room. I'm going to read 3 fairly short poems. I'm going to end with the one that has the most levity to it. You'll see what I mean about my poems having levity. Here we go. We were invited to bring some ghosts into the room with us. There are many, many ghosts in All the Blood Involved to Love. Yeah, I'm a Black girl from the South. Portrayed in the Lone Star. Sometimes 2 women meet and smile for no one else. I looked into the open cleft of a lover and watched the month's first rivulet descend as she called on my tongue's continued praise. In the world, outside of plush duvets and soft bedfellows, men with knives call tides of blood from daughters. I don't know what I would do if a man who looked like my daddy hated me, hated my sex all the more because I did not want him to have it, or because I have wanted a woman too, wanted to roll a body out of, unclasp the straps. What if the only time a Black man loves me is when I'm dressing his wounds? Or, on a given day, I prefer the sweet humidity of a lipsticked breath, the ice trail on a summer belly. Somewhere near the home I left, 2 women lied together openly, and bayou humidity, croon, and the lover's spit. Later, one's father unclasped the straps, rolled their bodies out of a red Kia. Did she ever call him daddy? Was it like the first time he held her? Those bodies near the dumpster, faces facing or turned. I like to believe the lovers' last acts were defiant, protective. The women battered. Him, a door to break through. Continuing on this theme of girlhood and sort of safe spaces in that experience, that sweet time. Girl secrets in her own cocoon. To have a door, the back of which she could wake to, smile at, brush her girl lips and hips against. At night, she'd sit cross-legged on the floor, press her knees to the door's face. In her room, she'd deny her mother entry, adorn herself in costume jewels, and pick her hair out round. She'd say yes to her own face, neither too dark nor too much her daddy's. In her mirror, she'd perfect her smile, with teeth, without, smack her lips and play woman without her mother's boyfriend telling her, feed me a little of this fish. She'd take her cue from Martha Reeves, jerk and gyrate. She wouldn't need nowhere to run. And because we come from many strong women who've done many jobs, who are now myths because of time, because time erodes memory. Here's musing on Aerith lost to time. The myth is Granddaddy's mother birthed 12 children by 12 discrete men. I asked what she did for work, and my big brother, of a different father, laughed at my insinuation that sex could be her job, as if being a whore is a joke, a lark, as if she, a ground-dwelling songbird with her streaky brown plumage, didn't shift her bones to shape the world 12 times. It was America after all. It was 1930 to 1953. It was Beaufort, South Carolina, and a woman is her own business. What's so funny? How many times did she make the shape of the sky with her legs, the oblong sphere of the earth with her belly? How many times was she an ossuary, Aerith with her crooked feet, maybe could only deliver her song in flight, crest pressed forward by her back's arc, belly swollen from fucking in that good, sweet way women do when they want to. Khalisa, congratulations on this gorgeous book. I'm grateful to be in this tradition with you. So much love.
Take a moment. Just take a moment. Just take a moment. Let that sit in your spirit. All right. Ooh, boy, I tried to tell you at the beginning of this journey how amazing this was going to be. We're going to keep right on going. Next up, our next reader is Gaia Rajan. And Gaia is the web editor of Honey Literary and the poetry editor of Saffron Literary. Her work has previously appeared or is forthcoming in Dialogists, Up the Staircase Quarterly, Split Lip Magazine, Hobart, and elsewhere. Her chapbook, Moth Funerals, is out now from Glass Poetry Press, and she is a National Student Poet semifinalist. And, oh my goodness, she's only 17 years old. Hope y'all are ready, because this voice is now, this voice is tomorrow, this voice is necessary. And we have the honor and pleasure of being able to hear it now. Gaia, we're so excited and looking forward to hearing from you.
I think Gaia just is having a little connection problem, Gaia. I think we just need you to make sure that your camera and mic permissions are set to accept for crowdcast.
Okay, we're gonna work that out. Make sure we can get that situated.
I think let's go ahead and bring Ayanna up, and
okay.
And we're gonna get Gaia going in the background.
All right. Okay, so we will move on and bring up our next reader. The next reader is Ayanna Albertson. Ayanna is a writer and spoken word poet from North Carolina. From early childhood, Ayanna has enjoyed the art of storytelling through poetry, singing, and performing arts theater. 2015, Ayanna received her BA in broadcast journalism from Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama. Further investing into her passion for creative writing, Ayanna is part of the Bull City Slam team in Durham, North Carolina, has participated in various national poetry competition, using her gift of words in order to impact, empower, and inspire others. She has been crowned the Bull City Grand Slam champion for 4 now consecutive years. And after competing against 93 poets in the 2020 Women of the World Poetry Slam, Ayanna was ranked second best woman slam poet in the world. And I am here to say that at the 2021 Women of the World Poetry Slam, Ayanna finished first in a tie with Lady Breon out of Baltimore. So now she is the #1 ranked poet in the world. She's very passionate about art advocacy, including women's rights and Black advancement and liberation. In her spare time, she enjoys singing and dancing. In her last year, has found new joy in TikTok, where she has garnered over 250,000 followers. Her motto for her work is, "I don't wish to be famous, I just want to be heard." So, without further ado, Ayanna, sis, so good to have you here. So now, moment is yours.
Awesome. Khalisa, I'm so happy for you and I'm so excited. And I just thank you for just even having this opportunity to offer my voice to your, I love Mahogany Browne said, I think she said book birthday or something like that. It was awesome. I'm so grateful to be here with you. And I just want to go ahead and say, like, the book name alone is already doing it justice. Like, it is. I've shared it with different people. And people are like, that book name is fire, and so it was genius. And everything that you do is just always so. It's so nourishing and nurturing, and so I want to thank you for that. I'm going to offer 2 pieces to the room tonight. One is one of my most recent poems I wrote. And it's called Sleep Paralysis Amongst the Other Hauntings. And so here's that poem. When a Black woman speaks and everyone is around to hear her, why does she still not make a sound? Fact. Sleep paralysis can often be triggered by sleep deprivation and stress. And I can't remember the last time I knew a Black woman who wasn't tired, wasn't exhausted, wasn't a victim of restlessness or depletion, how she be fatigued and worn and weary and still forced to stay woke, self-awareness in a world that would rather her unconscious facts. During this transition, one is often unable to utter a word or move a muscle. And I can't remember the last time I knew a Black woman who didn't feel silenced or wasn't constantly fighting for control of her own body, how both day and night be an I can't breathe protest, a declaration to overcome the powers that be, to withstand the very things that haunt us in daylight and darkness. I once heard someone say, the only way to get out of an episode is to call out to God, to recall the only source strong enough to speak a storm still. And I can't remember the last time I didn't know Jesus was the answer. How his name barely escaped the rustle between my lips. How every day is a battle between a harmful thing and a hallelujah. How some call it a witch riding your back, an old hag on your chest, or a demon holding you down, and I am not surprised. How being a Black woman has always felt like spiritual warfare, like weapons formed against you that also prosper from time to time. How every day is a weight of its own. It's trying not to suffocate when everyone has their hands around your throat. Fact. While experiencing sleep paralysis, one might hallucinate vivid waking dreams. And I can't remember the last time I knew a Black woman stranger to anxiety who didn't wish reality a bad dream. How sometimes I awake from nightmares only to live in another. How being Black and woman has always felt like a terror of its own, has been the coexistence of faith and fear, of strength and struggle. Question. If a Black woman goes quiet and no one is around to care, does she even exist at all? Is she even worth a listen? Does anyone notice the war inside of her, the voice fighting so desperately to be heard, the body trying so desperately to be seen? Tell me, what is the metaphor for the type of tired that sleep can't fix? And that is that poem. So let me know, you guys, if you like it. It's new. And here's this next poem. It'll be pretty self-explanatory, but it's called Lineage. Sorry. In this family, we always clean up before company arrives. Make sure the house is properly kept, the laundry folded, the linens fresh in this house. We good at putting on a show. of making sure people don't see our mess, our mistakes, our stains. We good at fixing, at refreshing, at filtering the flaws that only these walls have witnessed. How we good at putting things back where they belong. Like a child in a child's place when she wonder why that man keep coming in her room. We good at sweeping dirt under the rug. Of cramming our skeletons to the closet, how we vacuum the stench of abuse from out these carpets and call it clean, spot-free, sparkle clean. And mama say, you better not leave them beds unmade. Better fluff them pillows like they new. Like they ain't never been used to swallow these tears, like these sheets ain't full of conviction and comfort at the same time. See, for a long time, Black families been passing down pain like it be a family heirloom. How we inherit dysfunction like it be a dominant trait. How Master instill in us three things: how to hush, how to clean, and how to toil the field so this dirt run family tree deep for generations. We've been shushing Black children into secrets, shaming them from sharing what lurks in the shadows, like monsters, like molesters, like mommy's cousin, like daddy's demons. How we always chastise them kids for just being kids, but spare the family rapists that spoil the child. How reunions are only reminders that what happens in this family stays in this family. How grandma's secret recipe has always been forgetfulness. Like she don't remember all them times grandpa became a magician. How he make a whole family from another woman's womb, but this family clean up nice. Care more about what others think than what the victims in this bloodline feel. How they quick to call Niecy a runaway. Never stop to think what it is she's running away from. How she would rather fold into herself than have uncle lay her out again. How nephew would rather hang himself in a closet than to come out of it. And ain't that the family tradition? Trauma. How we pass down this hurt like hand-me-down threats. How Sunday dinners ain't quite the same when you forced to break bread with your abuser. How we always call on the Lord, but forget to cast out those demons. In this family, we are a lineage of lost childhoods and stolen innocence. How we never talk about it even though we know it exists. How this family name alone holds a multitude of sins, but when guests arrive, when the doorbell rings, the lock undone, and the outsiders come in, you could swear on your low-down great-great-grandfather's grave that this family was perfect. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Kelly, Khalisa, I'm so absolutely proud of you and so happy for you, and I'm so excited to see what the rest of the night has in store, and you already are going to kill it because you are already worthy of all the praise and all the acknowledgement you're going to get anyways.
Wow. Okay. And there's more. There is more. Man. All right. Hope y'all here because these poems is coming through. They are coming through. Y'all come on through, poets. Now let's see if we can welcome Gaia in. Yes. Thank you. So good. Gaia, the moment is yours.
Hi, thank you so much. Khalisa, I'm just so grateful to know you and excited that this incredible book is coming into the world. Khalisa is just so passionate and so dedicated to her vision in everything, always, and I couldn't ask for a better friend. So everyone must buy her book. I'm going to read 2 poems about my own ghosts. So this one is called Ghost Town, Ohio. Anything can be a spinning tire, or anything can be a dead end speckled with spit, or anything can be a memorial if you look hard enough. So I name this town. The hunger of its dogs, I search for scuff marks on the statues, take them as evidence of the living, hear the rain against an abandoned roof and think of the water on my father's hands 10 years ago, his head bent in the sink after a day at the hospital, scrubbing and scrubbing until his skin dissolved. Like him, I enter the horizon and promise to keep quiet. I circle the map where my parents grew up, circle the town begging for someone to reply. I bless the doe sleeping on the road before I see she's full of bullets. I whisper my name in a church and call the echo my ancestor, angel smacking her lips on the hard syllables. The dogs bark but do not get up to beg. My father gave me the posture of a guillotine, ready always for the war years. I have an accent in every language. This town doesn't remember it was once a town. My father on the phone wants to know what I'm looking for. Yeah, and this is my last one, and it's called Among the Living, and it's about the many years I believed I really didn't have a lineage among the living. I learned to dig empty graves looking for some flash of ancestry, but instead there is a hole, dirt where names should be, crunching glass. Ancestors, maybe you invented things too. Maybe they scuttled a streetlight straight into the dark, begging for mercy. Maybe the creatures that come to me are yours. Like you, I escaped into the city where they pinned liberation onto rainbow flags, where I'm called a revolution but never allowed to breathe. I don't think I believe in fate, but I read the tea leaves anyway, wrinkled my nose when they all came up death, and maybe you did the same. Maybe you will. Maybe the same terrible hope. When I was a child, I spent every day dreaming, and by dreaming, I mean worrying. Sleeping with my back always to the wall, watching my shadow, watching all my dead friends become ancestors, I ran dry, so invested in the myth of my own escape, wanting something accidental to make me a memory. Splintering lightning, car crash, oak fallen precisely on my twin bed. You know how it was back then, don't you? And you know your place in this life is to love things until they're dead, but this time you're safe. Quiet. Starlings, I promise there's no one here. It's okay to come home. It's okay. It'll be okay. It'll be... Yeah, that's it. And I will never stop congratulating Khalisa on her incredible debut. Thank you so much for having me.
Wow. Oh my goodness. This has been just wonderful, wonderful group of readers and guests. And now we are at that moment, and I am going to step out of the way. I know Caitlin Taylor is going to be here. We're going to prepare ourselves for the reason why we are here, and to really, really get into the celebration of ghosts in the Black Girls Club.
Hi, everybody. I feel so fortunate to be here. Tonight has been amazing, incredible. I have this philosophy that poetry should be read out loud, and it's amazing to have that philosophy be reinforced tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Caitlin Rae Taylor. I'm a fiction writer, designer, and managing editor of the literary magazine Southern Humanities Review. But mostly, I'm a close friend and diehard fan of Khalisa Rae. I remember the first time I ever saw Khalisa perform her poetry. It was the first time I ever saw her, period. We were at a bookstore in downtown Wilmington, an open mic night I was too shy to participate in. At the time of the reading, Khalisa and I were both MFA students at different institutions. I had just started what I perceived to be my official journey to becoming a writer, and I had no outline, no rough draft, no one after which to model myself as a writer. And then Khalisa took the stage and delivered a performance so stunning I forgot to breathe. The room, which was full of anxious writers fidgeting with the pieces they were prepared to read, stilled, and Khalisa's poetry was all that there was. Writing, then, revealed itself to be not just static words on an inanimate page, but a living, breathing force, a cry of rage and love. Forgive me if I start crying myself. As our friendship grew, Khalisa became my guidepost as to what and who a writer should be. Confident, curious, fiercely protective of her writing time, a community builder, a voice for change with an intelligent sense of humor. But I don't have to tell you that Khalisa is all of these things. Her bio speaks endlessly on her behalf. Khalisa Rae is a poet, journalist, and educator in Durham, North Carolina. She is a graduate of the Queen's University MFA program, where she studied under Claudia Rankine and Ada Limon. In 2012, her poetry chapbook, Real Girls Have Real Problems, was published by Jakar Press, and she is an active member of the National Poetry Slam community. She started the women and femme poetry organization Poet She Performing Arts in Greensboro, North Carolina, after graduating from North Carolina A&T University in 2011. Upon relocating to Wilmington, North Carolina, she started Athenian Press, a BIPOC bookstore and resource center for women, femme, non-binary, and trans writers and artists. Her work has been published widely and speaks to womanhood, anti-racism, identity, and generational trauma. Her essays are featured in Autostraddle, Catapult, Lit Hub, Bitch Media, NC Black, and others. Her poetry appears in Frontier Poetry, The Florida Review, Rust and Moth, Pank, Hellbore, Sundog Lit, Hobart, Flypaper Lit, and countless other places. She was a finalist in the Furious Flower Gwendolyn Brooks Poetry Prize and a winner of the Femme Lit Magazine Contest, White Stag Publishing Contest, and the Bright Wings Poetry Contest. Currently, Khalisa serves as the founder of Thinkin' Inc., a BIPOC collective, and the Women of Color Speak reading series. She is also the assistant editor at Glass Poetry and a workshop facilitator at Catapult. Tonight, we're gathered not just to celebrate these countless accomplishments, but to celebrate the publication of Khalisa's first full-length collection of poetry, Ghost in a Black Girl's Throat. North Carolina State Poet Laureate Jackie Shelton Green calls Khalisa's poetics, quote, unbreakable glass knives that own charted and unmarked underground burrows, providing refuge for righteous indignation, end quote. Of the collection, Pank says her book is, quote, a newborn scream that's been held in for eons, sharp, strong, unapologetic, beautiful, and angry. A celebration of language and rhythm, a book that demands to be read with clenched fists and an open heart, end quote. To me, this collection is a rare window into the heart of one of my best friends. It is the rawest, most honest poetry I've had the pleasure of reading in my life. It chastises, instructs, bellows, cries, and it never apologizes for itself. Sitting down to read this collection in its entirety, full of so many poems I had already read, edited, read again, was a joy, a project come full circle. But I had the benefit of Khalisa's voice in my head as I read it, the lyricism, the power of her performance echoing through me, just as it did on that first day when Khalisa came into my life. These poems beg to be read aloud, but there is no one who can make them come alive like Khalisa herself. I am thrilled that all of you are gathered here tonight because truly experiencing Khalisa's poetry requires all five senses. Tonight, you will hear outside the canon words to never use. You will taste exit speech. You will feel boil, burn, salve. You will see Van Gogh paints a hymn, and you will smell Garden Girl heartbreak. Tonight, you will be haunted by Ghost in a Black Girl's Throat, and it is a haunting that will never leave you. Hold fast to its spirit and let it carry you through the night. Folks, I give you my good friend, Khalisa Rae.
Hello. Thank you so very much, Caitlin, to everyone. I'm just so humbled and grateful to be here with all of you. I'm going to actually lean this down so y'all can see this outfit that I'm sporting tonight so you get the full effect. First, I just want to say thank you to Charis, thank you to The Rumpus, thank you to my team, Dawn and Jennifer and Ria. Thank you to everyone that helped put this together, Dasan, Maya, Gaia, Jihyun, Caitlin, Mahogany. I couldn't have done this without you, and I wouldn't have wanted this space to be filled with any other voices but yours. Tonight, I am welcomed by my grandmother. I've got her poetry behind me. I found out in college that my grandmother was a poet as well. And for my wedding, my husband actually got my grandmother. I asked my aunt for nothing more on my 20-something birthday, my 21st birthday, than to have my grandmother's poetry. And my husband surprised me and framed one of her poems that she wrote back in the 40s. I am also joined by Mahogany and by Dasan and Jihyun, and Angie Thomas and Tavis Brunson and so many great writers that I'm keeping behind me to give me blessings and peace and good energy as I share with you. Before I get started, I wanted to tell you a secret. I am often afraid. I am often afraid of everything. I go outside and I'm terrified of wasps and bees. I am afraid to say what I really mean, so I choke it back, and that gets me in trouble. I am afraid to lose my mother. I am afraid to lose friends. I am afraid all the time. And so this book is about the power that unleashing the truth has. And I struggle with that every day. And so this book for me is a reminder of how life-shattering, altering the truth and speaking your truth can be. So when I was in my late 20s, I found out that I had an autoimmune illness. And long story short, before I got diagnosed, I actually was so tense all the time and so anxious that I couldn't move my throat or swallow. No doctor could tell me what was wrong with me. And so I went to a yoga class right before I got diagnosed. And Mickey Jacobs put me through, she's a Black yoga teacher in Wilmington. Now she lives here, but she put me through a series of exercises. And she said, Khalisa, they're going to give you your diagnosis. But the thing that I need you to know is that it's a spiritual problem as well. You have something locked in your throat chakra that you're afraid to talk about. And she was right. And so writing this book when I was in my MFA program was almost interesting because it prophesied a lot. I wrote this book before that happened in college, as Caitlin said, with Ada and Claudia, as a response to me moving from the Midwest to Wilmington, North Carolina, at the birthplace of the 1898 race massacre. If you don't know anything about it, please look it up. And that had a huge impact on me, so much so that I wrote 90 something pages of poetry about it. And so to start us off, I often would lean on a song that helped me because I am a survivor of trauma and abuse, and oftentimes because of that, I don't know when is the best time. I'm always walking on eggshells to say what I mean. And I want to share this song with you before I do my poems. I love a man that can sing. And so I met my husband in poetry class at A&T University. So I escaped Wilmington because of the racism. Fast forward, went to college, met my now husband. He was a poet and a singer. And this is one of the songs that we would sing together. But what he doesn't know is I would go in my car in a corner and sing this to myself and just cry because I needed it to help me find that voice that I kept hiding away. So this is Sarah Bareilles' Brave, and I hope that it moves you the way it's moved me. You can be amazing. You can turn a phrase into a weapon or a drug. You can be an outcast, be the backlash of somebody's lack of love. Or you can start speaking up. No one's gonna hurt you the way the words do. They settle beneath your skin, kept on the inside with no sunlight. Sometimes the shadow wins. But I wonder what would happen if you say what you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave. What you want to say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I want to see you be brave, Khalisa. And everyone out there, I want to see you be brave. And I hope that for all of us. Because they know that's our superpower, our furnace of rebellion. So they silence us before the coal burns. They resurrect monuments of ghosts on our streets to keep us from ever looking up. They build a liquor store on every corner so we don't notice the curated segregation, call it redistricting. Our cities muzzle the men with gallows for tongues and call it obedience school. Synthesize our ghettos, graffiti them in gold and call it urban redevelopment. The South will make bitch a sweet exaggeration of your name. Sit, speak, come when spoken to, and the leash around that throat will always be taut. Always gripping around a word you never said. Your body an apparition, hologram of your former self. Too much magic in one room turns sorcery, witchcraft. And we be witches, don't we? Reassembling the chandelier of our reflections. We spin a web of shade and make it a place to rest under broad oak that it is. They will suck the mucus from our jubilation and call it a cancer, but we will clap back with shaking hands, because that's all we've got. These voices, these throats, this righteous indignation. They will start with the muzzle. Always a taut muzzle to melt the metallic of our wills. There will always be a rusted bit in the mouth of this horse that was too stubborn to ever be spooked by your ghosts. Thank y'all so much for being here tonight. I am thinking about Mahogany Browne and how I was a young baby in the poetry slam world and told, so I was a part of the Winston-Salem Poetry Slam team with my husband and Ashley Lumpkin and phenomenal other poets in the Winston-Salem area. And my teammate said, do you know who Mahogany Browne is? And this is back in 2009, 2010. And I was like, I think so. And so I go to the National Poetry Slam for the first time. And I'm getting choked up now thinking about it, and see her perform, and I am forever changed when I hear her words. And years later, I'm hosting the National Poetry Slam competition. I love to host events, and so I'm volunteered to host. And who is in my bout? None other than the New York Poetry Slam team, and Mahogany is there. And there's some fickle things happening with the scores, and there's some like rescoring. If you know anything about Poetry Slam, sometimes you get crazy with 5 judges and there's a rescore, and I get nervous because I don't want them to think that we're cheating. You know, there's 5 teams or more, and Mahogany pulls me aside to encourage me about knowing the truth and standing my ground and being confident and going back up there because I was really out of my hands. And I will never forget that. And since then, after that experience, I reached out to her to be a mentor. And I want to read this poem for her. I will never forget the fact that she answers my messages or the fact that I can say, sis, I need you. This has been a hard couple of months, and I feel comfortable reaching out to her and saying I'm breaking. I feel like I'm breaking. And I'll know she'll always have a word for me. This is called Circus Sex. I'm gonna try to not cry this entire time. And it actually has another title that says No More Black Girl Magic. And when I wrote it, I thought about her poem, Black Girl Magic, because I thought about how Black women are often asked to be expendable, that our labor is just taken for granted. And we are asked to be this miraculous thing at all times, yet not appreciated and not taken care of. So this is Circus Sex. Black woman, this world will make you circus act, freak show, tightrope walker, contort your name from sorority to Sarah Bartman, Hotep Venus stage performer. Look how they abracadabra the royal exploitation of your form. Watch them dissect your broad bottom, saw you into science experiment, call your mending magic, your root balm and salve a work of the devil. Go out the trap door and come back in the body of Beyonce, prized possession. They will spit shine the stage for you again. What a spectacular woman. Two-headed and omnipresent. 1 foot here, 1 foot in Houdini state. Your magic trick is, look at all the wonder I can do with 2 hands in 24 hours. When people say that's Black girl magic, say I have no magic anymore. I make crumbs. I make meals from crumbs. Cast demons with just my tongue. Envision possibility from potential, and that makes me a scientist, an inventor, a chemist, spiritual being. Tell them this is not super. This is survival. When they call you hero, when they hand you the cape anyway, say, haven't I carried enough? When they call your strength otherworldly, say, it is the Venus rising in me and nothing more. I think about how I wish when I was going off to college that I had mentors like Maya Marshall and Mahogany Browne and Patricia Smith. I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed to have people that I can go to. And I wish that I had mentors like that. You know, sometimes your mom tells you things and you don't listen because it's your mom and you think she's just trying to keep you from all the fun things happening. And what you don't know is some of that fun stuff will get you burned. And so if you know my book, you know that I have a poem called Full Moon to Monday. Many people have heard it about surviving date rape. And I wanted to, of course, offer healing for anyone who is a survivor here. That warning that I'm going to actually read Into the Woods and not read Full Moon to Monday. Full Moon to Monday and Into the Woods are about wishing someone would have warned you about all the many pitfalls we fall into as young women when we just don't know. We don't know when he says, come on, a little further, that it's okay to say no. And it's okay to use that voice to say, I don't want to, or not now. This is Into the Woods. I must have wandered into the woods with open palms, stitches gushing, my 20-something wounds advertising there is broken here. All my scar tissue, a magnet for men obsessed with mending boys that respond to women's cries like an invitation to console me and fill me with delusions of grandeur. The project of wannabe martyrs that bore the cross of a thief. Saviors that get drunk off the wine of women's wailing vulnerability, collecting tears like notches. Sonic ears tuned to only the pitch of damsels in distress. Because what's a hero without the conquest and crumbling? In this script, he is the lifeguard and I, the drowning thing. He comes running to on steed to tower window in hopes of being declared a knight. When most knights are dogs in wolves' clothing, and most dogs are desperate searching for scraps. The test is how fast he arrives at the scene of the burning, how quickly he can pry the claws from around the neck of the Red Riding woman. But what he doesn't know is I store a collection of knives in the pocket of my bruised and fractured frame. Train in the skill of bullshit daggers. Perfect my archery for he who thinks my body is made of straw. And all my mouths have compasses. My hearts have bow and arrows, and I use Prince Charming's cheating ass for target practice. I love that poem so much. In that same vein, Fatima Asghar has a book, I think it's When They Come For Us, and it really affected me. And so I wrote Livestock, if you're familiar with my book, with that first line, the title of Fatima's book, as just an image that I needed for the poem Livestock. And I always say, like, if I ever get into a situation where, I don't feel safe and I need to protect myself after being a survivor, I come from these strong women that my mom always says, if I hadn't taught you anything, you fight your way out. And so this poem is for my mom, for the thank you for teaching me that I have that power to fight my way out in a way that I didn't know that I had when I was younger. This is Livestock. When they come for me, I am neither girl nor boy. I am neither clam nor cock. I have neither hooves nor snout, but I do have claws. I can grunt and growl and show my teeth. I do not need wings to create a windstorm. I do not need talons to break skin. I can snarl and scrape. I can unhinge my jaw to fit a head twice the size of mine inside. I can be razor-backed and spiked edge when he tries to skin me, unscale my silvery back, debone my brazen hen hide. I will be foul-mouthed and crooked-necked. I will be the chicken head he knew me to be, if that will save my life. When he comes for me, I will remember the coup, how they gathered the foul brown girl up by her feet with hands and cooing, how her brown hung low when they entered her into the guillotine to sever her head, how they plucked her body until it was bare. I will remember the blood and what happens when they want to make you food. That poem always gets me fired up because I remember my mother's words about fighting. And sometimes as a person who wears her heart on her sleeves and just loves people so much, I don't like the idea of fighting. And then I remember my mother's words about, sometimes fighting isn't always with your fists. Sometimes, as we talk about, speaking your truth and not being afraid and not living in fear tonight and grappling with those ghosts. Sometimes, fighting is with your words. Sometimes fighting is with your knowledge. And so I want to read this next piece because there's so much I wish I would have said earlier in my life. And I'm grappling with the fact that sometimes timing is everything. Sometimes the ghosts we hide away are dealt with at the exact right time. as I think about a ghost that I had kept in my throat for so long, I think about, as I wind down, I think about this memory I had of me getting caught by my mother exploring my sexuality in my body with another girlfriend that was over our house. And I kept that so hidden because I was ashamed, and because afterward my mom like exorcised us, and that was a very traumatic experience for me. And I say that I brought this poem out of the fire, but really it's a ghost that I summoned, and I conquered that fear to say, you no longer have power over me. Ghost, I'm not ashamed of this anymore. So this is Mackerel. I wanted to do a crowd favorite before I end on my last poems and ended on things that people haven't heard before, but I love Mackerel so much. When I was 12 or 13, my mother caught me and a female friend bouncing our vaginas off the end of the bedpost like live bait. Our bodies rubbing against the maple wood, trying to catch a spark on the cold, hard thing between our legs was an awakening. The mesquite of our innocence rising to where my mother and her friends sat talking. And we were just at the point of falling off the bone. The moment when the pink is so tender. When my mother opened the door, doused our flames with holy water and scripture, and made us forget the sweet communion of burning. Years after she scrubbed the cedar from our clothes, I learned that my body is only alive when it is free to choose when and where it starts a fire. How long it allows itself to be wet in waiting. The power comes in knowing that my body is no tadpole, no fish to roast over hot coals. It is the flame itself, the blue and red ghost that survives even after the smoke clears. As I wind down, I'm just so humbled to be here and to share my work with you. I told Jennifer, who's my assistant, she's phenomenal. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for all your work. I told her that on readings that I've been doing on my tour, I always rush off. They tell you have 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and I do 5. And I told her tonight I was going to take my time because I am often afraid to take up space. I don't know where I learned that from, but probably from being in the South so long, where I felt invisible and like I couldn't take up any space. And so I want to, we've had a lot of pain and tragedy with Black bodies in the last couple of days. And I just want to say ashe, and that I lift those folks that we've lost up. This is body apology, and then we will end on something encouraging, something soul stirring, so we can all go out just feeling like we can conquer the night, conquer the day. This is body apology. This really happened to me. We were at the Denver Poetry Slam, and my husband was in his Poetry Slam bout. He's been a part of Dasan's Poetry Slam team for 10, 11 years, however we've been married and dated. And he was practicing. I went to a coffee shop by myself, got my little journal. I think we were in Denver, and I sat there. And this family, I was at this big table by myself. This family just started like pressing against me to make me move. And it was just a symbol to me, of supremacy in a way of like, so somehow I don't deserve to be here, you do. And so this is body apology. This memory really stuck with me because I thought about how this wasn't the only time this has happened to me. And not only in the South. Today, I left a space so white bodies could inhabit more comfortably. Today, I got out of my seat so a white family could sit in my place. Today, I accommodated a white body. No, thank you. I am often accommodating. Today, a white family stood behind my table, pressing against my back, and I was expected to leave, never asked. I should have planted my body instead of being uprooted from my seat like a weed to be plucked. Today, I was an apology. I apologize for my presence often, and no one says thank you. I apologize for my presence often. I get cut off. I end up apologizing. I am pushed past. I end up apologizing. Walked in front of. Excuse me. No response. Sometimes I go to white spaces, plant myself, just because I know my roots aren't welcome there. And I know that's a scary act. Here in the South, we are often terrified that just by planting ourselves and speaking up, we could lose our lives. But I am encouraged by all of the greats that have come before me that said, speak anyway. Speak anyway. If you read my poem, Mahalia Sings to Freedom, it's about that and Harriet Tubman, and I encourage you to read that. I'm going to end on celebration because I think that that's important before we end the night. I'm going to read Emergence. So I was a artist in residence at the Cameron Art Museum in Wilmington. And they commissioned me to write poetry for several different art installations. And so my poetry and dance team that studied the history of Wilmington 1898 race massacre, we were asked to respond to a bunch of art, but then I was given the singular job of responding to a specific piece that was isolated from that. And the woman's head, it was like a white cast of clay, and there were several heads coming out of it. And this is the piece that I wrote for that. It's called Emergence. Do not say I am antique ornament or furniture. What I know of collectibles is that their lot in life is to be lifeless. Porcelain statues, glass vase baby dolls, painted wide oceanic eyes, arms and legs, pretzel, crossed mantelpiece prizes, immovable and still. Each blemish perishable, each rust stain removable. But the undertaking is not in being concealed. It's staying stationary, unchanged, not letting the sun age our cast iron skin, each body part appraised and valued, checking our brassy finish for tarnish and paint chips stroking our clay bottom for dents. But I am not for sale. So do not call me art, call me a revelation, origami concept of an architect, call me a twisted science, a multi-dimensional formula with depth that changes and adapts. I am a contemplation, a technique to be approached from many sides. Call me a complex thought, leaping from an immeasurable brain. Thank y'all so much for being here with me tonight. I'm just honored and grateful for all of you. I hope you enjoy the book. I hope it heals a part of you, helps heal those ghosts that have been keeping you up at night. I know that all too well as a person with insomnia. Before I leave you, I promised Ada, she loves the poem When Watching, and the first two lines are for her. What if Dorothy wasn't afraid of the wind? What if she welcomed the cyclone? Maybe she was waiting to be swept off her feet from a wild, uncontrollable thing. Thank y'all so much. Much love to you. I'm so excited to be in conversation for a brief Q&A. Thank y'all so much.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Beautiful, amazing. And it's an honor to be here with you for this moment that you have been working so very hard for. So, oh no. So how does it feel? Talk to me. How does it feel? You are here. How does it feel as everyone comes back with us? How does it feel? Talk to us.
It's scary. It's scary, but it feels good. I think, like Maya knows, because she was one of my editors, that it's hard to put something out into the world and hope that what you intended is received and hope the impact that you wanted was felt. But as I sit here tonight, that's falling away. That fear is falling away because I'm in communion and conversation with so many brave women tonight. And so I feel stronger being here. I feel stronger knowing that my book is in good hands, and I'm in conversation with all of you, and I feel just so blessed and honored that y'all are here with me.
So we are now at the Q&A portion of the evening, and there's an opportunity for there to be questions from those in attendance, and we're going to try to get through as many as we can in the time that we have. Khalisa, I want to start by going back to Ghosts in a Black Girl's Throat, and that title, that theme, that image. We had a conversation, and I told you then about how the imagery that you gave me was so powerful, and I would love for you to go back to that moment where you were talking about your arrival in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I think that was so. It was so poetic and so both prophetic and brilliant. I would like if you could, share that with everyone about that idea of the ghosts in the throat.
Yeah. So I shared with you that when I got to the South, I was a Gary, Indiana girl who spent a lot of her time in outside Chicago. And although, I didn't read it tonight, but my poem to Raven Simone that talks about being the only Black girl in private school growing up. So I felt that. I felt erasure and silencing and othering, but I didn't quite know how to name it. And then it wasn't until I got older did I realize that I also was a survivor of trauma. My memories started coming up. So when I got to college, learning about the traumatic events of Wilmington 1898 massacre meant that I was a survivor of trauma coming to a place of a lot of trauma. And if you know anything about the history of that, you know that the white militia killed the Blacks in the city and threw their bodies into the river. And so I felt a constant haunting. Everywhere I went felt haunted. They even have ghost tours. It's so weird. In Wilmington, they have ghost tours and they have plantation houses you can walk through and they tell you that these places are haunted. But I felt it internally, I felt it in my spirit. And so what I had to do is I also had to think about the fact that those people were probably some of my ancestors. And so I had to call on them to get me through the trauma of being there. So I actually turned the ghost on their head and said, you slaughtered my people, but I'm gonna use and have them be my balm and salve. They're gonna be here with me in the midst of this trauma. And so that's much of what I mean when I say on the back cover that says I am coming at peace with the ghosts. It's because they're there with me to help me, not make me afraid. They were there to empower me. So, yeah.
So, what I want to ask everyone is, what are the ghosts? What do the ghosts represent? And how do the ghosts? How are the ghosts different? You know, for Black women, for BIPOC women, like how are the ghosts different, and what does it mean? You know, to bring these ghosts forward, to address them, to exercise them. What does that mean? So that's the question I would like to ask. Don't everybody rush to answer at the same time. It always happens. There's that awkward moment, the awkward silence. So someone kick us off. What are the ghosts? What do the ghosts represent, or what can they represent?
I think there's more than one way to answer that. I think figuratively, I think the ghosts that haunt me are not unique or particularly special, but they're carried around. So there's stories that we won't tell from our homes. There's the interior selves that we choose not to share, but that is readily and consistently present. There are the people who have had lived experiences and loved us, and I regularly see this quotation that says, "Your grandmother's prayers are still protecting you," and that's very much true for me. The great grandmother's prayers are still protecting me. The fact of the matter is that we existed in their bodies before we existed in our minds. And it's a way in which the real people who have passed and preceded us persist down their lines through their lineages. And that way, the ghosts are present as protectors, spirits. They're not always angry with us. So I think that's it again to the answer of what are the ghosts.
Does anyone else want to add?
Well, just to kind of piggyback off of that, I think it's definitely the lived experiences. For me personally, even in the poem I shared, especially as a Black woman, I think there are a lot of things in which we have this natural, I guess, fight or flight in us. As Black women, we're constantly, I feel like we're constantly in positions where we need to fight. But then sometimes we have these causes where, it is better to maybe reflect in the moment and not react. And so I think that alone can just be applied through a slew of lived experiences that we have. I think naturally we have an ingrained PTSD that has us constantly looking over our shoulders, constantly having to be hyper aware in situations, where being Black is dangerous at times, where being a woman is dangerous at times, and then you merge the two, and there's this like double target. And so when I think of a ghost, I think of the things that literally haunt us, right? And different people, there's good ghosts and bad ghosts, but I think when we think about when I think of even Khalisa's book, like Ghost in the Black Girl's Throat, it's the things that haunt us that are trying to rob us of our voice, trying to be some sort of wedge in between what we feel and what the world needs to hear. And so I just personally think it's kind of always going to be that way. And that's why we are a special kind of people, because we have what it takes and what we need to have to be able to push through and have that resilience and have that pushback, if you will. And it is exhausting at times, but I don't want to say unfortunately, but even fortunately, we are equipped to handle it. And hopefully that the world will soon give us an opportunity to alleviate that weight.
So with that, the next question is, so what do you believe is the power that poetry by BIPOC women can have on the culture, and how can it shift narratives? So what is the possibility there?
I would love to hear from everyone else and what they think. I can share like my little quick, and then I would love to hear what everyone else thinks. I think about Ayanna has the poem she read tonight. I think it's Lineage. And that to me is a perfect example because in the Black community, we are often taught what happens at home stays at home. We don't talk about it. We don't drum up the dirt, if you will, that folks want to sweep under the rug. And what happens is you've got then in turn, folks like me that like go through 30 years of life not knowing the history in my family, right? So it's just now that I'm having conversations with my mom about the history of mental illness or sexual assault or abuse. And so we hide these things and it takes 30 years just to get it out when we could have had those conversations earlier and started the healing process earlier and mended some broken wounds and some relationships that were fractured. And so I feel like poems like hers have the power to shed light on this history of historical generational trauma that we have to end, these generational curses that we have to end. And I think that that's so life shifting for, you know, a young Black mother to hear that and be like, I can talk to my young Black girl about, like, we can talk about this and like what to do if, or, you know, what to do when. We can have those open discussions. And so I think, you know, there's a whole gamut of the power that BIPOC women writing has to shift lives and shift the culture. But that was one thing that I wanted to shed light on. Thank you, Jan, for your words. Ji Young, were you going to say something? Oh, you're still muted.
Right when this question started, the internet kind of petered out, so I missed what the question was.
So the question was, what do you believe is the power that poetry by BIPOC women can have on the culture, and how can it help shift narratives?
Well, I think the most simple question, the simple answer just for myself is, maybe this doesn't pertain to the culture at large, but I think it's like immensely beautiful that we're giving people some like a figure to relate to. Like when I was growing up, I think I would have loved to read more like, you know, like young Asian, like own words writers, but that wasn't necessarily super available for me at that time. And even like, I have a friend who is trying to become a YA novelist. She's a Vietnamese woman, and she said that her novel was kind of accepted, but they said that she needs to try to make the main characters less like Vietnamese, right? So it's still a problem now, right? So I think like BIPOC writers publishing now, just like the sheer visibility in itself is a beautiful thing. And I'm not too interested about like writing towards like the culture at large. I just want to be seen for the people that I'm writing for.
All right. So we actually have a question from the audience. And Khalisa, this question says, what have you learned since the book was finished? Were there moments you wanted to add poems?
Were there moments that I wanted to add poems? You know what's funny is I'm actually writing now what I think to be some of my boldest work. And so, yeah, like, cause you know, so I have a lot of the folks that have helped me edit the book here, Jihyun and Maya and Kaylin's here and Jenny's here and tons of other folks. Faylita might be here. And And so when I put it together, you know, we put it in themes of elemental, and I wanted to speak to like the fire and, you know, the BIPOC woman and the spirit and the water and the, like, we're all made of those elements, right? And then now that I'm writing these like bold poems just about like sex and desire and the body and like just historical generational things that like nobody would talk about in my family till now. And so now I'm like pinning those secrets that they're revealing. I'm like, dang, I wish that would have gotten in this book. But what I will say is my mentor told me the timing for those are going to come out when they were meant to like be released into the world. And the funny thing is that I have a book right after this one. So they're going to be in, some of them are going to be in Unlearning Eden. And then the rest, you know, will be when they're meant to be revealed. And so I think the poems that were meant to be in Ghost in the Black Girl's Throat are in there and speak to the theme well. So yeah, I hope that answered their question.
Wait, can I ask you to elaborate more on the next collection? I didn't know this.
Yeah, so Unlearning Eden, I won the White Stag publishing contest last year. And so I think I can say this, but they were so enamored by Ghost that they wanted that book. And I was like, ooh, it's already being published by Red Hen, you can't have it. And so so it's funny, Jihyun, because if you remember to like piggyback off the question that was asked, I had different poems in Ghost in the beginning. I had all kinds of, this was my thesis dissertation, and I had a whole bunch of like weird poems from my MFA in there. And so White Stag was like, can you take some of the poems that speak to coming of age and the body and desire, and put that in, can you send us something? Can you send us something and craft it? And my sister was like, I'm gonna help you. We're gonna put these poems together. We're gonna make this happen. And so that birthed Unlearning Eden, and they read it and were like, yeah. So that's Unlearning Eden, and that's the collection that comes out January 2022. It was supposed to come out this year, but we felt like we wanted to give Ghost its full just due, and we didn't want to compete. I don't want to compete against myself. So yeah, Jihyun, that's the book that's coming out, Unlearning Eden. It's about coming into your sexuality as a young girl, and yeah.
That's so exciting.
Thank you. Sorry, Dasan.
Oh, no. Actually, that's a beautiful segue, because over the weekend I was at a poetry festival, and one of the conversations that came up was about getting to the book. And I would love for all of you to offer some thoughts about what it's like for you to get to the book, you know, to get to the manuscript, to getting to the collection of poems, and making those hard decisions about what that looks like, how to finish writing the poems that you're looking to write to get to the book. And each experience is different, but I know there are writers right now, you know, going through that and struggling with, how do I get to the book, whether it's their first, second, or third, because, you know, so I would love for y'all to offer some thoughts about what that process is like for
you. Before I speak to the practical steps to getting to the book, I want to back a little bit to the first question, or to the question of what poetry by people of color offers can do changes. And I'll say first that poetry by people who are oppressed offers both joy and pain simultaneously. There is an elevation and celebration of that, which is bittersweet, but the sweetness gives depth and texture to what's bitter, and vice versa. And that's something that's handed down through literary lineages. So, like, had I not started with Audre Lorde and June Jordan, I wouldn't know that. And Nikki Giovanni, who says, like, just because we were in the ghetto doesn't mean we didn't have fun, but there wasn't beauty and joy. And Audre Lorde says, this isn't the ghetto, but I am outside, inside of my family. That I can be wildly intellectual and intentionally pop political and outwardly joyously sexual and dedicated to intentional form that allows for and pushes for creativity in my dealings with other people and my dealings with myself in intimate and public spaces. The poetry that we create is born out of that lineage, and we've moved from the 70s to the 90s to now from having 60s, 70s, and 90s, from having this sort of large cultural name, Black poetry, Black movement, and the relationship between Asian American cultural safety movements and Black American cultural safety movements is dynamic and important. To being able to say, I, the individual person, am a definition of that Blackness. I am a definition of what it means to be Indigenous. I am not only the monolith, but we are multiple and diverse. And so the freedom that we have in this moment, where like the love poem to the self and to the family member and to the friend and to the beloved is like central in our first books, the sort of self-portrait next to the poem for the moment, next to the anthemic, this is what this poem sounds like on the stage, all come from that tradition. And that has to do with finding joy in the midst of pain, which is central and connective to all of these populations who are living in pursuit of liberation. So that's the thing that it does. And it also like saves little nerd girls who skip school to go to bookstores and read, New Yorker poets aloud from the cafe. Reflection. So yes, visibility. And also like first craft exercises. How does one write a poem? Am I allowed to just say I all the way down the column? Yes. So our work teaches other people how to say their piece. And the more that we do, the more we change the cultural conversation. We're doing it without looking to the dominant narrative for how we're supposed to do that, how we're allowed to do that. Which is why we get Don Lundy Martin. It says like, and B. Shockley and Douglas Kearney and say, it's not experimental, it's experimentation. Like this is process. That's why we have a Claudia Rankin who can write the word you and everyone, no matter the color, no matter the age, feels implicated and called in. It's quite a tradition, and I'm grateful for it. How we get to the books depends on who you are. I was a nerd, so I skipped school and went to the museums and read books and wrote in small groups and went to writing camp in the summer. Not that I wasn't athletic, but this also. And then there's the world of the retreat. So Kabikanan, those 3 weeks over that 5-year period are maybe my favorite, high on my list of favorite lived experiences. Spending time caught in the throes of poems, exceptional poems as they were coming into being. Poetry as a way of slowing us down so that time is non-existent and we are fully subsumed in the experience of whatever happens in that image on the page. And being in love with that means I continue to come back to my desk and fight with the words and I'm like, I should write a sonnet. All I've written today is 500 words of prose that is completely unrelated. What am I doing? Community is the thing that has got me to the point where I have a full collection, right? There are several people in this room right now who are the reason I have 72 pages of poems that are related to one another. I have hundreds of pages of poems totally unrelated. Some of it's garbage, some of it is exceptional. But often, in rooms like this, there's inspiration to continue because y'all are who I've been waiting for. Y'all are who I show up to talk to. This is what I wait for throughout the week and the years. And, today I was saying, I'm terrified to publish this book. I talked to my mom on the weekend, and it's like, I'm telling our stories. I never want to undermine the integrity of this family, but it's also important to be brave and say the stories that are secrets. And to do that knowing that poetry is neither nonfiction nor fiction means that I just have to trust that what exists on the page does enough to make everyone seem whole and nothing seem absolute. And so jettisoning from the philosophical to the practical, all right, I need this many pages. I need to apply this guideline because I have an accountability partner. Like Jacob, I really will see your poems. I know that I'm should be said. It's how we get to the book. Find some trusted readers and keep coming back to the page.
Is there someone else, who else would like to talk about, that journey of getting to that book, to that manuscript?
I guess I could just talk about what I practically needed to finish my book and feel kind of, maybe ethically is not the right word, but it's the only one I could kind of grasp right now. To ethically feel okay about submitting it was, I felt like I needed explicit permission from some of the people that I was writing about, because the beginning portion of my book, a lot of it is from the perspective of my grandmother, and she's still alive. And so I was kind of worried that in writing from her perspective, I was worried that I was obliterating a lived history in service of my own poems. And that really concerned me a lot of times, because I'm just like, it's a history that I just cannot completely fathom. I'm not a North Korean refugee stealing clothes off of corpses, right? So I felt like there was always kind of like this block of me completely accessing the poems in a way that didn't feel like I was breaching territory that I shouldn't. But I finally kind of gathered the courage to ask certain people for permission to write about their stories. And I was kind of surprised by how much that liberated me once I received that spoken permission to write it in the way that I really felt like I needed to. Before then, there was a wall. And I'm sure that, but for my case, I was lucky enough that I was able to just ask her when I visited Korea a couple of years ago and saw her in person for the first time in several years. So that was just like the biggest stepping stone that I needed.
So we have one more question, and I think it's wonderful that it's from Courtney, because we weren't able to have Courtney with us at the beginning. But the question says, this is related to what I wanted to say in my introduction, but I tend to believe Black women are diligent caretakers of the human story, which is full of beauty as well as ugliness. Regarding that ugliness on the page, how do you, Khalisa, and everyone, take command of the story rather than have it take command of you when it would be so easy to overcome? Thank you to all, and to Charis, and to Charis. Here I go. Here I go. To Charis on behalf of the Rumpus. So the question is, regarding the ugliness on the page, how do you, Lisa and everyone, take command of the story rather than have it take command of you when it's so easy to overcome? To be overcome, sorry.
I see Jan's wheels turning. Mine are turning too. That's a really good question, Courtney.
Yeah.
For time, this is what I'll say. I can just speak to ghosts and say that I was blessed to have some powerful editors that helped me not let the pain or the trauma or the ugliness consume the poem, because of course craft has to still be there, right? So you know, I find that especially with page poetry and coming from slam, it's difficult for me sometimes to like translate that pain on the page in a way that will be understood by folks, because they're not getting my body language and my facial expressions and all the extra things you have in slam. And so I really leaned on, and I hope this is answering his question, but I really leaned on several different folks' perspectives. I enjoyed, you know, looking at the way Jihyun would approach my 10 Reasons the South Will Never Be Home, right? So it starts, the long back roads still rattle me, still make me fear being asked to step out, the nightstick and the gun being turned to roadkill. And so that poem gets pretty like ugly and graphic, right? And so I leaned on the different perspectives of my editors and them coming in with their own lived experiences and the way that they view the way something should be crafted. And really tried to listen to their magic and listen to their expertise on how do I deliver this pain, this ugliness, this trauma in a way that people can understand. The other thing that I do in that same vein is I study. I like to really be in conversation with Toni Morrison a lot, because she speaks to a lot of the pain and ugliness, yet the beauty, especially of the South. And so I would read and just like bury into her work and think about how she does it and how she does it so beautifully. And I would just study how other poets are able to always have that juxtaposition at all times going on, especially Southern writers. I just wrote a essay about this, about how I think that's like a special little thing about Southern writers, that they're able to juxtapose really ugliness with beauty at all times, because that is essentially the South. It's this beautiful pastoral place with some messed up, ugly, dirty history. And you get blinded because it's so beautiful. And it's hard on the page to hone that in, rein that in. And so just studying the way other people capsulize that and rein it in, and then listening to my editors and asking them and leaning on them. So yeah.
Maybe in a different sense, in a physical sense, if I need to write something that's difficult, I make sure my space is comfortable and that I've taken 5 minutes to meditate and like pay attention to breathing, go in with a totem and a timer. You know, I get to the part that's hard, I set the timer to stay in that place for 20 more minutes, and then I get up out of it. So that I don't lose the perspective on the text, right? Because I could easily fall into the realm of just being in my feelings about the thing, and places, right? But the craft is important. So exiting so that I can read like a reader, and sort of be cognizant of what objectively is happening on the page. And then when you start coming back to it and saying, all right, I'm looking into this space again, I'm going to settle myself down. And these are the sort of 2 craft elements I'm going to attend to in this session. Set the timer, place, and let myself leave from energy.
I was just gonna add in, honestly, back to what Khalisa was saying. You know, there is this like intersection of like beauty that comes with the pain, um, especially in like being a Black woman. I think we just have um, we have more of a, I can't say in the majority, but the Black women I know, we have this cup half full mentality instead of the cup half empty. And that's because, you know, when we think about things that try to bring us down, we have to have some sense of hope, right? It doesn't change the measurement. It doesn't change. If it's half full, it's also half empty. But it's the way in which we carry the load. you know. That's something I try to implement into my own personal writing. You know, like I shared, I have a poem. It's called Lineage. The poem is literally talking about how in the Black family we have a lot of secrets that we pass down, a lot of pain and a lot of trauma we pass down. And that's why it's called Lineage, because it's literally something that kind of transcends generations. But what I try to do is, especially in my writing, is have a roundabout way of talking about something without necessarily, I guess, beating it down, I guess, like at the same time, without like, because it's like there are things that we need to talk about, and there's things that I want to talk about, and they might be taboo, but how can I get people to listen? How can I get people to really understand and want to listen to what it is that I have to say about this very taboo situation? And I think just in realizing that, you know, especially when we are, I love that you said caretakers of the human race, like, or caregivers. I'm not sure which one it was, but I think that's a big part of who we are historically, like nurturers, right? One could arguably say like black women were literally breastfeeding children they did not birth, right? And so when you think about that, we have had to give selflessly, and if not having to give, being forced to give. And so we have this natural innate nurturing to us. And when you think about these stories, when you think about the stories that we need to tell, we just have to also remember that we are, in a sense, not only telling our stories, but amplifying the voices of other people as well. And so I think that's what keeps me going, especially in my own personal experiences. I have to also understand that there are people out here who are just waiting to hear the one story I may be too scared to write, or the one story I may be too ashamed to share. But it's somebody who needs to hear that. And I think those things are what keeps me going and able to push through the broken.
Thank you. Courtney, thank you for that question. That was a great question. And thank you to Rumpus. Also, thank you to Charis Books for helping to make this possible. Thank you, Mahogany Browne. Thank you, Gaia. Thank you, Jihyun. Thank you, Maya. And of course, Khalisa. This is your night, and we're so happy to be able to celebrate this with you. Any final words that you have, Khalisa, for everyone before we go?
Yes, a couple things. Thank you, Ayanna, so much for being here. You are my family forever. And so me and Ayanna and my husband were supposed to do a closing song. But because Ayanna couldn't physically be at our house, although we live like up the street from each other, because she couldn't be at our house, I'm gonna now, before we pop a bottle, invite my lovely, distinguished, handsome husband and partner in crime over to close us out on some wise, sage words from Journey. If you don't know them, they're a small, humble band that has a song called Don't Stop Believing. And we would like for all of you to join us in this sing-along as we close out this wonderful evening. You may know the words, you may not. So you can just follow our lead. If, y'all don't want to be on the screen during the sing-along, that's okay. But you can stay on and sing with us because we about to get it in. Dasan, you want in on this action? Do you want in on this closing song?
I think it does.
You want in on this
closing song?
Okay.
Did I hear him
I heard a yes.
I think I heard say yes.
Will there be another one? Will there be one? Maya, you
with 2 or 3 touch and agree.
You in this? Jihyun, you in this closing medley? Are you in? Are you doing this with us? You're on mute. Is that a no? No, I heard you. What did you say?
I only know the chorus from like my old middle school dances, so I could only join along for that part. Okay. Other parts, it's all you two.
Okay, so how about we say that we can just have everybody in the audience and y'all can come in on the chorus. Okay, that sound good? Wonderful. All right, so let's pull up these lyrics because your girl, what?
I was about to ask. I was like, because I know.
Because you know, we used to know this by heart. Me and my husband loved to sing at home together. So we're gonna do this a cappella. And I need a sip of. All right, me.
Earth juice.
Me. All right, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train going anywhere. Just a city boy, born and raised in South Detroit. He took the midnight train going anywhere. Sing it. I was like, what? A stranger?
That's oh God.
For a smile, they share the night.
Oh goodness.
On and on and on and on. Strangers waiting.
Up and down the
Boulevard, shadows searching in the night.
Yay!
Harmony.
I didn't hear voices.
I heard the sound say, oh God. But that's like his normal panic.
Voices. And Jihyun would have got the wine and didn't sing along. I tell you.
That's definitely the first time anybody's ever sung a Journey song in Charis. I gotta tell you that. I love it. Thank you all so much for a wonderful evening. Thanks to everybody in the audience for being a wonderful, thoughtful crowd. I want to remind you, if you click this teal button, you can buy Khalisa's book, but you can also buy the books of everybody who read tonight. So support all the artists that you heard tonight. Just click through. It really helps us. Charis is an independent feminist bookstore. It really, really helps us when you buy the books direct from us. That is what allows us to do events like this. So please buy them from us if you can. The other thing it's my honor and job to do is let you know that we're also a nonprofit. And so if you have $1, $5, $10 to throw our way, that really, again, helps us pay for this platform and put events like this together. So we know everybody's money is different right now in the pandemic, but whatever you're able to do, it means a lot. I'm going to be adding captions to this and putting it up on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is just /Charis Circle. So you'll get an email at the whatever email you register with, letting you know that it's ready. And we would love for you to share that URL when it is ready, because it is more accessible. So just know it's coming in about 24 hours and we'll be blasting that out. And we'd love for you to blast that out. This URL will be available for the rest of the night, so you can revisit it and you can share this one, but just know the more accessible one is coming, and that is our preference. So congratulations to Khalisa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the Rumpus. We love y'all. We love all of your work. And I hope everybody stays safe and well, and that perhaps we can have you all physically come to Charis in the future, because we would love to have a real party in the house. But this was a great virtual party, and a real honor. So everybody have a great night. Thank you so much.